Gotta get
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making the plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so time for laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is All Sports, All Plays Network, and you are watching another episode of the Monday Night Football Recap. And I'll tell you what, that was kind of an interesting game tonight for many aspects that I'll tell you. This was a game that we did not even foresee even it being relatively this close. We all thought it was going to be a blowout. Honestly.
Definitely, I definitely did. I thought that the Bucks were going to handle the Giants pretty well. Might as well be the Jets at this point. But I thought they were going to hand it to them, but didn't happen that way.
Before we jump into it, I want to let you guys know that tonight I am with none other than J-Mac. And, well, what can I say about the guy other than, man, he makes some interesting picks and I don't know. But we're also live tonight with none other than the Mess Around Dave. How's it going tonight, Mess Around?
Not too bad. It's cold. It's cold outside, man. It's cold out here.
Right? All right. So, before we get started, J-Mac, tell me.
Yeah.
How do you get a free shirt? I want to know. I saw those ASAP shirts, and I'm like, dude, how do you get a free one? I want to know.
Well, let me tell you that if you want to be like Brandon Herrera, who was last month's fan of the month and got this awesome free T-shirt, what you got to do is hit that post button. Put a comment, post it to the show, and post some more, and comment some more, and like, and share, and all that good stuff.
Okay, but Mess Around. So, what if you're somebody that can't be on the show at a particular time, so you don't have the chance to comment, but you still see one of those shirts and you want one? How else can you get a shirt besides having to comment? How else can you get one of those awesome shirts?
You can buy one for $25 with shipping and handling.
I like it. Wouldn't you love to have one of those shirts?
I don't have one. I want one.
Right. Those shirts are awesome, man. Those shirts are fantastic. So, now that we have that out of the way, which please everybody, like and share, post and comment, and then just hit us up. Hit us up and order one of those fantastic shirts because I know you want one of those fantastic shirts. So going with that, tonight we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New York Giants. We kind of already heard from J-Mac by saying he was kind of expecting a blowout tonight too, just like I was. So on this one, I'm going to ask Mess Around the same question. So Mess Around, what were you expecting tonight? Were you expecting one of those beatdowns?
Man, I was like, is this even really going to be a game? Does this count? Like, they beat their last two teams they played by a combined 52 points. And I don't know. They just played terrible tonight in the first half, and then they came alive in the second half. They still should have lost this game, though. They just came out flat. They just played down to their opponent, I think, is what happened.
Yes, they did. The Giants, if you look at this game, the Giants in this game had several chances to put points on the board. The Giants actually left, by my calculations, they left 17 points off the board because Daniel Jones on one of those did not see a Slayton that was wide open. I mean, wide open. And then he overthrew a Darius Shepherd, which those two would have been touchdowns. And then they're marching on a play, and Daniel Jones is about to get sacked, and instead of throwing it in the ground and potentially getting a intentional grounding call, which, okay, that's minus 10 yards, okay, that's fine. But instead, he decided to try and force a throw, and it was a horrible throw, and he got the pass picked. So, J-Mac, what was your takeaway on that?
Daniel Jones is now he's second all-time, first career 40 career games, and he has 35 turnovers in his first 40 games in his career. Only Ryan Leaf had more. Think about that name. Only Ryan Leaf had more than Daniel Jones. So Danny Dimes, as you like to call yourself, keep throwing those dimes to the defense, my man, because that's what you'll be known for.
Yeah, but the thing is, too, with Daniel Jones is he did make some good passes tonight down the stretch. I would say in that final drive was probably his best drive of the night. He looked good on that final drive. He made smart throws. That touchdown pass to Golden Tate in the back of the end zone, that was an excellent pass. That was a beautiful pass. So mess around. What is your takeaway on Daniel Jones? Do you put a lot of the blame on Daniel Jones for how bad the Giants have been this year? And do you blame Daniel Jones on the loss to Tampa Bay tonight?
As far as the season goes, I don't put a lot of blame on him. They're without their best weapon on offense in Saquon Barkley, and that hurts them a lot. If they had Saquon, they'd probably win at least 2-3 games by now instead of the one. And tonight, like you said, he missed a wide open Slayton on the other side. That was 6 points there. So, yeah, tonight's definitely on him. But, hey, at least he didn't trip over his own feet tonight.
Right. Exactly. I will give him that. He did not trip over his own feet. And then when you look at the Tampa Bay side of things, Gronk didn't have his best game. Mike Evans, well, pretty much this whole year, Mike Evans has not looked like Mike Evans. He's getting a lot of red zone targets, but that's pretty much it. Other than that, he hasn't really gotten a lot of catches. He hasn't really gotten a lot of yards. This year he's been used more of a red zone threat than pretty much anything else. So with this one, I'll go to J-Mac and say, so J-Mac, why do you think that Brady is not giving the ball to Mike Evans like he should be?
Well, I think that even though Brady's playing in Tampa Bay now, he still has that contract with Home Depot where he likes to go down and pick out wide receivers, because that's where he seems to find them from. Guys you never heard of, that he likes throwing to them. And I don't know if he gets a rapport or it's the fact that he can get them to do what he wants because they're not a big name. But, yeah, Brady does a lot with, really nobody. And he's never – outside of Moss, he's never really been great with a great receiver. So I don't really have an answer. Again, maybe he has a way with them that he can break things down that they can understand, and they're not, on the prima donna side where all of the veterans are. We'll see. I think it'll be interesting to see what Antonio Brown brings to that wide receiving room. Going to walk in there, think he's number one, and Mike Evans is going to put him in his place. I guarantee that.
Yeah, but when you look at this Tampa Bay team, you're saying that Mike Evans is the number one. But can you really count Mike Evans as the number one? Because they have a Chris Godwin, they have a Gronkowski. They now have a few guys that you're saying that Tom Brady's building a rapport with, and a guy by the name of Scotty Miller. Tonight, he went to Mickens a few times. They have a Leonard Fournette in the backfield. They have a Cameron Brate. They have His name is Ronald Jones, but they call him Rojo. That's what they call him, Rojo. So I don't know right now if you could even say there's really a number one on this team. You almost have like three number ones on this team. Once you get Antonio Brown, you almost have three number ones.
I don't think Antonio Brown's going to be as big as people think he's going to be. I don't think that. And let me just talk about the running back situation for a minute. Leonard Fournette on this team, he's not the premier back. It's Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones led all the NFL in rushing in October. So think about that for a minute, like Rojo, as they call him. Are they really going to go away from him when he had the most rushing yards in the month of October? Or are they going to go to Leonard Fournette? I think Fournette's more he's kind of the thunder to the lightning. Freddie. You're talking about the clown of the NFL and Antonio Brown. Wait, I take that back. He's the second clown. The first clown is Josh Gordon. But Antonio Brown won't be the number one.
Well, that's like the big thing with Antonio Brown is, can he go long enough without doing anything dumb and getting himself in trouble? That's like the biggest talk. And before we go on, I want to give a shout out to Lauren Curley, who's actually watching the show. So Lauren Curley, if you actually want to win one of those awesome ASAP Sports Network shirts, just go ahead and leave a comment. If you have a question, go ahead and leave your question. We will answer it live on the show, and you will have a chance at winning one of those awesome ASAP Sports Network shirts. So on this one,
by the way, Ace, I just want to let you know that I heard from Frank, who we dedicated our show to a couple weeks ago. If you remember, Frank the Tank was in the hospital.
And he's coming home tomorrow.
He's actually coming home tomorrow. So Frank, we're thinking about you. We're glad you're better, man.
And playing wise, Freddie, yes, the dude's talent is one of the best. When he actually played for Pittsburgh, we saw year in and year out what his talent was. He had true talent. He was one of probably the best receiver there was in the NFL. But he hasn't really played all that much in the last year. He had that one game in New England, and that was pretty much it. And then to answer your other question that I see on the side there, to where you're asking about, can I win a free shirt? I'm sorry, Freddie. Your comments do not count, sir. Sorry, buddy. All right. So the question that I have for Mess Around, I'll go ahead and give this one to Mess Around Dave on this one. So Mess Around, when you look at this New York Giants team, hold on here.
Tim Fielder, welcome to the show, buddy.
Welcome, Tim Fielder. All right. I love to see it. So, and actually to go with what you're saying, there's actually truth in that. And the reason why I'm saying there's also truth in that is because when he actually signed with New England, he was actually living with Tom Brady then. So everyone is saying that Tom Brady is the answer for Antonio Brown, that Tom Brady will be able to keep him at a mellow state, as you would say, and keep him out of trouble. I don't know. I guess that's something that we'll have to really see. So going back to what I was going to ask Mess Around Dave here, you saw tonight that the defense for the Giants actually played really, really well. They came out with an excellent game plan against the Buccaneers. So if you had to give a grade to the Giants defense tonight, how would you grade them?
Well, I don't know if it's so much the Giants defense as it was Tampa being out of sync and playing flat, playing down to their competition. I'd probably give them a C. But like I said, their chemistry wasn't there tonight. They were just off. I think if they had played like they had the previous 2 weeks, this wouldn't have been close. But, yeah, I'll be nice to your Giants, Freddie. They're still in the playoff race because they're playing a terrible division. Still got a shot at winning the East. So there's that.
And mess around, what you're just saying, you hear that often, and that's like the number one thing that drives me nuts. So you have guys like maybe a Aaron Rodgers or like a Drew Brees. So their team loses, and it's like, oh, they had a bad game. The other team came in with the game plan. They shut them down. They did this. They did that. And then you have a guy like Tom Brady, who plays a team like the Giants, who was 1-6, I do believe, who comes out, plays the Buccaneers great, had a great game plan against the Buccaneers, but then people don't want to give him credit. People say, no, it wasn't really the Giants. The Buccaneers just had an off game. That is blasphemous, man. If you're going to take credit away from all the other quarterbacks and blame it on them, and then give credit to the other team, how can you not do that tonight when the Giants came in with a game plan and was able to stop the Bucs for the most part? You got to give them credit instead of just being like, oh, the Bucs, they just had a bad game. No, man, come on, that's blasphemous. Mess around. What's your answer to that?
My answer to that, I'm sticking by what I said. They played terrible. They didn't play up the way they usually play. Yeah, so I mean the Giants did have a great plan. They kept the Bucs on the sidelines, their offense on the sidelines, and like I said, they were just out of sync tonight.
I just wanted you to say at least a little bit that you gave the Giants a little bit of credit because of how well they played. I'm not going to give credit to basically Daniel Jones. I'm not going to give credit to him. Maybe a little slim credit, but that's about it. The receivers tonight were getting open. Daniel Jones, for the most part, wasn't finding him and was making horrible throws. That is the Daniel Jones that we are so accustomed to seeing, the turnover-prone Daniel Jones. He's got to clean that up if they want to be able to bounce back and win a bunch of games. So, J-Mac, do you have to say any kind of rebuttal about what Mess Around was just saying or what I was saying?
Man, look. I don't disagree with Mess Around that the Bucs had a flat game. But I also don't disagree that the Giants didn't have a good game plan and stayed in the game the whole time. So it's one of those tough things. You can give credit on both sides, or discredit, I guess, the Bucs if you want to say that. But if you play this game on paper 100 times, the Bucs are going to win by 20. 90 of those 100 times. So yeah, you have to give the Giants some credit for the way they played on defense. Because their offense, man, you should have put them away like 3 times in that game. At least 3. And you made some terrible throws. Like, I seriously thought Daniel Jones, I thought maybe Mitch Trubisky stole his jersey and went in and played for the Giants tonight. That's honestly what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, you see Mess Around in the backstage there. That Mitch Trubisky type thing going on right there.
Honestly, I was calling for Trubisky this weekend. Both played like garbage. I wanted Trubisky in, but that's another story another time.
No, that's completely okay. That's fine. Since this is the Monday night recap anyways. So Brady did throw a couple touchdowns today. He was able to basically lead his Bucs to a come from behind victory, but the Giants did have several chances to close this out. Daniel Jones made an excellent play, and I would say an excellent throw in the back of the end zone to bring the game back within 2. And then there's a lot of but on the 2-point conversion where everybody was saying, a flag was thrown, and then they picked it back up and said it was not pass interference. Honestly, from my angle, from what we saw on TV, it looked like it should have been pass interference, but the flag was picked up, and they said it was not. So, J-Mac, what was your take on that? On the 2-point conversion, should it have been pass interference? From what I saw, it looked like it.
No, it shouldn't have been. You know why? Because this is professional football, and we should allow these guys to play more. I'm sick and tired of all these flags being thrown for these little ticky-tack fouls. When really, if you're going to go out there and you want to be a professional, make a play. He did not hinder you enough for you to not be able to catch the ball. And to me, you have to do that for it to be pass interference. That's really how I see it.
Mess around, what do you think?
I agree with J-Mac on that. I didn't think it was warranted for a flag to be called. They made the right call picking that up. If you want to blame anybody, blame it on Jones. If he throws that ball sooner, they probably convert the play, but he held on too long.
Yeah, and tonight I think that was a lot of the knack on Daniel Jones, is because some of his reads that he should have seen that he did not see, especially when Darius Slayton was wide open and basically would have put his helmet on the goalpost because it was a flat-out touchdown without question. The biggest thing on that one was Darius Slayton was his first read, but he took off the read that fast. He just switched his read and said, nope, and then turned and looked the other way and then made a bad throw. And that's when he threw a pick because he focused his shift on another receiver just like that. He changed his focus just like that. Boom. So, what do you guys think? Do you think that Daniel Jones, we know he's still young. We know he is still young. But do you guys still foresee Daniel Jones as the future quarterback of the Giants? Or do you think it's time they might be like, you know what? Maybe we should start looking elsewhere. And I'll go ahead and start with Mess Around on this one. What do you think?
I think it's too soon to pull the plug on Daniel Jones. It's only, his second year. I'd give him another year, see what he's got, and do what the Bears did with Trubisky, go out and find a veteran backup that can take the reins if need be.
Freddie, my man. I'm not being disrespectful to your man Daniel Jones or what they want to call him, Danny Dimes. I understand you're saying he's your future. All I'm looking at, man, is I'm looking at facts. I am looking at the facts. It's just like J-Mac was saying before. Do you know there's only one person right now in the history of the NFL currently, through his first so many games, has more turnovers than Daniel Jones, and that's Ryan Leaf. And what happened to Ryan Leaf? He wasn't around for very long. Ryan Leaf was probably the biggest bust in the history of the NFL. Am I saying that Daniel Jones is going to be a bust? No, I'm not saying that at all. Am I saying he's the future of the Giants? I'm not so sure yet. I need to see a little bit more in Daniel Jones, and I know you're talking about the O-line. I completely get it, and then I know what you're going to probably say. Well, Saquon is hurt too. I understand that Saquon is hurt, but look around the league. Almost every team has injuries. That's the type of season it is. He has a Darius Slayton. He has a Sterling Shepard. He has an Evan Ingram. Oh, okay. Freddie. I never said that Daniel Jones was going to be a bust. I never said that. What I'm saying is I need to see more out of this man. I could go on all night about this, but I'm not going to because there's other guys on this show too. So another time, another place, I will debate you any other time about this, but I'm not going to do that right now. So, J-Mac, what do you think with Daniel Jones? Is Daniel Jones the future of this?
He is. Let me throw another name at you. So Daniel Jones in his 40th start, like we said, has now 36 giveaways, which is the second most all-time, only behind Ryan Leaf. But let me ask you, do you guys know a future Hall of Famer who is probably the most cerebral quarterback in the history of the NFL, who had 31 turnovers in his first 40 games?
And I know you're going to probably say it's Brett Favre.
No, actually, it's Peyton Manning. But
Well, Peyton Manning, yeah.
Peyton Manning had 31 turnovers in his first 40 games. Now, I could give you the numbers on what he had in his last 200, but what's the point in going into it, because we all know how that story turned out. The only reason I told that is to tell you that it's still too soon, like Miss Messaround said. We can't throw the towel in on this kid yet. His star player that's around him is hurt. Saquon's gone. That was his safety net last year. His safety blanket, as you will. They have a horrendous offensive line that needs to get fixed, and they don't have a very good defense. When your star player on defense is probably a Blake Martinez, what does that say for your defense? So that's all I'm saying. They got some stuff to fix, but that doesn't mean Daniel Jones can't come back and be something great.
And I'm not saying he can't, but you're trying to throw in defense in there now. What the heck does Daniel Jones have to do with defense? He's got nothing to do with defense whatsoever. So that's the only point I'm trying to make. And Freddie Henderson is now saying that he's proud of J-Mac because you're sticking up for his man. Now, Freddie, I never once said that this man was going to be a bust. And J-Mac, I get what you're saying about the whole Peyton Manning thing. And then you're talking about injuries here and injuries there with Saquon. But look around the NFL right now. Look at how many injuries there have been around the NFL. Look at guys like Drew Brees. Look at guys like Aaron Rodgers. And those type of quarterbacks who pretty much all season have had injuries across the board on the receiver side, and yet they're still making plays, they're still throwing touchdowns, and they're not turning the ball over. So mess around. What do you have to say about that?
Those teams that you talked about, they have more talent on their team on defense, offense. They could step up for the guys that are hurt. The Giants don't have that. That's all there is here. They don't have the talent that the Saints have and the Packers have. So that's all I'm saying about that. If they had more talent, maybe. And Jones isn't the best quarterback yet, but he could still get there.
Yes, he's young. He's still developing. I was saying that too. But I never once said that Daniel Jones was going to be a bust. I said Ryan Leaf was a bust. But somehow we triggered this whole trickle-down effect by saying that I said that Daniel Jones was going to be a bust. And then I said that Daniel Jones was a terrible quarterback. I never said that. I said the one thing that Daniel Jones has to do is he has to learn how to take care of the ball, and he's got to stop turning the ball over. As we saw tonight, he did it again. He did it multiple times again tonight. And when he turned the ball over tonight, those were not good throws. Those were horrible throws. Those are rookie mistakes. And yet this is his second year, so I don't consider him a rookie anymore. Those are mistakes that you cannot make anymore. You have to clean those up. So J-Mac, that's all I was trying to say. So what do you have to say about that? That's all I was saying. I never said he was a bust. I never said he's terrible. I was simply talking about the turnovers. He's got to crack down on them. So J-Mac, what is your take on that?
Oh, I completely agree. And that was the whole reason I was not, when I brought up the whole Peyton Manning thing, that was not to say you were saying he was going to be a bust. Not at all. I think that went in a completely different direction. What I was saying was, for everyone that's out there naysaying right now, Daniel Jones can't do this, he won't do that. That's my point. That was precisely my point, is Peyton Manning had that many turnovers in his first few games as well. Okay, and look what he became. So Daniel Jones has all the tools to become this great thing in the NFL. He's just not there yet. He's young. They need some help. They've got to get things around him. Offensive line is the most important thing in the NFL. I'll debate anyone on it all day. You have to have a good offensive line to have a good team. To have a good quarterback to run the ball, you have to. It is number one for the success of your team. So that's the only thing I was trying to say. By the way, I'll also say this. Offense wins games, defense wins championships.
Yes. I completely agree with you on that. Defense is what's going to win you championships. And so that's why I've said for for years when people have knocked on like Drew Breeses or Aaron Rodgers or quarterbacks like that, and people should go, they should have more rings. I don't understand how you can expect these guys to have more rings when in the past and stuff their defense has been giving up basically 28 to 35 points every playoff game that they play. Now, going into tonight, the Giants defense showed up to play. They showed up tonight. So there might be a glimmer of hope maybe coming up with this Giants defense. We all know how really good that Bucs defense is. In the first half, that Bucs defense struggled with stopping the run. I don't know why they did in the first half, but they did. Then they came out in the second half, they made those adjustments, and they were able to do a better job with stopping the run in the second half.
Yep.
I mean, are you guys agree on that? Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
All right. So when it came to that, then what happened in the second half? Once the Buccaneers slowed down that Giants running game, the Buccaneers were able to slowly take that game, and I'm not going to say that they took it over because the Giants were able to move the ball, but it really put the game in Daniel Jones's hands because of the lack of running game they had in the second half. And I think that that's kind of what cost them with the turnovers. And so as Nate is saying, so we have a side discussion here in our comments that Freddie is saying that currently Daniel Jones is playing better than Carson Wentz. And then we have Nate the Great who's saying he is not playing better than Carson Wentz. At this point in time, it's Wentz and Cousins that are leading the league in interceptions, and then you have Daniel Jones behind them. So Daniel Jones is pretty close behind Carson Wentz and Kirk Cousins. But J-Mac, and I'll start with you on this one. In your eyes, is Daniel Jones playing better than Carson Wentz at the moment? Is Daniel Jones the best quarterback in the NFC East right now?
No. I don't even know why this is a discussion. He's not. Now, can he be? Absolutely. He's got all the tools to do it, and he'll get there. Trust me, he'll get there. And I'll call that right now. Like, he'll get there someday. But right now, he's not. And it's hard to say who is. Everyone in that division is struggling. Everyone. That's why you have a 3-4-1 team that's in first place. That's why you have a 1-7 Giants team that's still technically in the playoff race for a division title. That's why the 2-5 or 2-6 Washington football team is one game out of first place, along with the 2-6 Cowboys. So, no, none of them are playing good. I would not. I don't know that right now any of them could go out and give you a 2-minute drill and win a game. I don't know that any of them could do it. Daniel Jones is probably playing slightly better than Carson Wentz on a scale of not throwing the ball away as much to the other team. Because
Not
you go
by
back
much.
and yeah, not by much, but you go back and look at Wentz's games, and he's had some that have been plainly dropped. He's thrown straight to the defense. So, but they're in first place, so you can't really knock on Wentz because they're in first place.
Mm-hmm.
So
mess around. What is your take on that? Number one, is Daniel Jones the best quarterback that's in the NFC East? And number two, is Daniel Jones playing better than Carson Wentz right now?
Right now? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's playing better than Wentz right now, but like J-Mac said, it's not by much. Look, as the guy who knows what bad quarterbacks look like, being a Bears fan, I've seen it for years. Daniel Jones is not a bad quarterback, and I don't think he's going to be a bad quarterback. Like I said earlier, give the guy time. Give him another year. If Dak Prescott was still healthy, he's the best quarterback in that division.
Well, yeah, that's why I said right now, without Dak
Yeah, I know.
Prescott being healthy, who's the best quarterback in the NFC East? If you had to pick a team right now to win this NFC East, because the Giants only being at one win, I think we fairly agree that yeah, we can count them out. They're not going to win the NFC East. But
if you're going right now, I'm going to take Daniel Jones because we don't know what he's going to be at. We know what Carson Wentz is. We know what he can do. Jones still has potential to get better. Everybody knows what Wentz is. And I think by the time it's said and done, Jones is going to be better than Wentz.
yeah, but you're not going to take the Giants to win the East, right? Are you going with the Eagles?
Jeez, that's a tough question. I mean, if the Giants can, they're not out of it by any means. I mean, they can always get hot going around, but with their offensive line being so bad, I just don't see it. I think the Eagles are going to win this division.
So there was actually an interesting stat that they showed on Sunday night when the Eagles beat the Cowboys, and they said that if each team only won their remaining divisional games and didn't beat anybody else, the Philadelphia Eagles would make the playoffs with a record of 4-11-1. That would be their final record, and they would make the playoffs like that. So, J-Mac, at this point in time, if you had to pick a team, but I'm saying obviously that's not going to happen, okay? The Eagles are not going to finish 4-11-1 and make the playoffs. That's just not going to happen. But, J-Mac, if you looked at the NFC East right now, who's the best quarterback and what team are you taking?
Man, the quarterback right now,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know. Flip a coin. Alex Smith. He's not starting, but he's probably the best team in that division. He's probably the best quarterback in that division right now. But I'll tell you this: I would watch out for the Washington football team. Their defense is scary, man. Chase Young is everything he was supposed to be coming in the NFL. And then when you got Ryan Kerrigan on the other side, you got some great defensive players on that team. And you have some young players on the offense that are stepping up and making some plays too. So, I don't know. Right now, let's roll the dice. Washington football team is going to win the NFC East. That's 6-10.
That's your pick, because
that's my pick. They're gonna go 4-4 the rest of the year, and they're gonna go 6-10, and they're going to win the NFC East.
And that's hard to say yay or nay on that. My pick was the Eagles. I had the Eagles 1 and then Washington 2, but at this point it's so tough because Washington did beat Philadelphia in the first game of the season, and it's just like you said, Washington's defense, they're really good. The one guy that you were forgetting to mention about besides Chase Young and Kerrigan, don't forget about that bad man and Montez Sweat too.
Absolutely.
That dude is a bad man also. And then on the offensive side, you have a Gibson who nobody saw him being the type of running back he is. He's an all-around back. He's still going to develop at a young guy. And then you have a Terry McLaurin, their star, their number one receiver. He's not bad. So, yeah, I get where you're going with that with Washington. It's certainly a possibility. But I don't know. If I really had to flip a coin at this point, I would pick the Eagles at this point in time, just based off of kind of experience. I think that's why I would go with Philadelphia at this point. So now, jumping ship from the NFC East, we can jump to the NFC South. When you look at the NFC South, you have actually 3 really good teams at the top of the NFC South, if you want to count Carolina as a really good team in there. They're not terrible. They're not great. They're a good team. They're kind of one of those, like I like to say, a Jekyll and Hyde team. Yeah. They're good and then they're bad. So when you look at this NFC South team between, let's just go for the sake of it, because they're playing that next week. What?
Did you really just say that the Panthers are a good team at the top at 3-5?
No, and here's why. Here's the only reason why I'm saying that they're a lot better than what people are giving them credit for. Carolina has virtually been in every single game that they've played. They've put up they have kept the games close. Their defense is much improved, and keep in mind too that Christian McCaffrey has not been in there. So, and Christian McCaffrey definitely, probably, arguably the best running back in the NFL. So you take him out, that's a humongous loss there, and basically all you're doing is inserting a Mike Davis. So that's why I'm saying this Carolina team is a lot better than what people are giving them credit for. I'm not saying that they're a great team by any means. That's why I said for the sake of it, let's say that the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which are the two top teams at the top of the NFC South, they're battling it out next week again. As we saw in week 1, the Saints came out and were able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if we had to look towards the end of the season, what team would you have picked right now to win the NFC South? And I will go with, and you know what, I'll start out with J-Mac on this one. Who would you have picked to win the NFC South?
Man, that's tough. But I will say that if the Saints find a way to beat Tampa Bay next week, they're the clear-cut favorites if they win next week. How can they not be? That means they beat Tampa Bay twice and essentially would hold a 3-game lead on them by beating them twice and having 1 game up on them. So it's going to be the winner of next week's games that wins so we'll go with it. We'll roll the dice. The Saints win next week. They take the 2-0. They take the season sweep, and they take the division.
Okay, so mess around. What do you think when you're looking at the Saints and the Bucks? Which team you got?
I got to go with what, like J-Mac said, whoever wins next week, obviously is going to control their own destiny. If the Saints win, it's huge for them because, like J-Mac alluded to, they essentially have a 3-game lead. The Saints are only going to get healthier when they get Thomas back. It gives him more weapons. He's got a playmaker, and Sanders comes back. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to Saints. Saints win this division.
It's going to be I honestly believe it's going to come down to the wire. The way that Drew Brees has been playing right now, I give Drew Brees a lot of credit. Look at this past weekend. Drew Brees played fantastic without basically his top 3 receivers. And so I think right now why everybody's talking about the Bucs as a clear-cut favorite in the NFC South, I think a lot of people are forgetting, hey, the Saints are sitting back saying, hello, we're still here. We're not going here anytime soon. What do you think on that? And mess around. What's your take on that? You think the Saints are sitting in the background going, hey guys, you guys are talking about the Bucs, but we're still here.
Oh, absolutely. They're saying that. I mean, they haven't really hit their stride. They've got top 2 guys out, like you said. Their offensive firepower is not where it usually is because of that. And when they get those 2 guys back, they'll be, like they were before, they'll be putting up 25, 30 points a game. So I completely agree with that.
So, J-Mac, with what I was just talking about with mess around here, how impressive has the Saints team been virtually because without having a Michael Thomas basically since week 1 and then Sanders being in and out of the lineup, and then you have to go with a Callaway, which is the guy who stepped up when Mike Thomas and Sanders were both out, and then he was also inactive last week, and the Saints still managed to find a way to win. So how impressive has that been, even though we know how good the Bucs are, but how impressive has it been with the Saints, with virtually having nobody out there besides Alvin Kamara, pretty much?
Well, I think you're forgetting about one guy for the Saints. And he's actually probably been the best tight end that Green Bay's had in the last 10 years.
Jared Cook, yes.
And they let him walk, which is very disappointing because everywhere he went, he's caught the ball. He's made some great plays. And Jared Cook is still out there. He's that third down guy. He's Mr. Reliable. He's not going to drop the ball if you throw it to him. But yeah, just like what Mess Around said. And we're a lot on the same page tonight. I understand that. But, yeah, Mess around, you hit it right on the head, man. This team is only going to get better. They're only going to get better because they're only going to get healthier as it goes. And that's one thing. Right now we're seeing the Bucks play, not so much tonight, but we're seeing them play at a high level with their best players. And we haven't seen New Orleans hit their stride yet because they don't have their best players out there. And when they do, man, look out.
Yeah, so I believe that I think a lot of people are forgetting that last year this Saints team went 13-3 last year. They were not a bad team. They did take a first round exit to the Minnesota Vikings, which I don't know what it is. Whenever they play the Vikings in the playoffs, the Vikings always seem to beat them. I can't figure it out. But anyways, with J-Mac and mess around, what you guys are saying, yes, this team's going to only get better because they're going to start getting healthier. Everybody's going to start coming back, and then the Saints team's going to really start rolling.
Right.
Now,
the only thing that I can see about Tampa Bay is like if they get the Antonio Brown that was in Pittsburgh, it could get interesting, but I don't see it happening.
you want to repeat that?
Okay, so what I was saying is if the Bucks get the Antonio Brown that played for the Steelers, this race could get really interesting. But I don't see it happening. I don't see Brown being that guy.
No, but I think a big aspect too, or I should say a key aspect that maybe that we're not looking at is for some reason the Saints defense this year is not as good, has been as good as they normally have, especially a Marshawn Lattimore. He hasn't had a great year. He has not been as good as he normally has been, but have an awesome defense. They are loaded on defense. So I think when you look at that aspect, that's the one thing that the Bucks have over the Saints defense at this point in time is, or over the Saints team is defense. And J-Mac, you're saying no. So I'll go to J-Mac.
I'm not saying Tampa Bay doesn't have a good defense, but there's one thing that comes down to the end of the long grinding season into the playoffs: experience. Experience is going to win 9 times out of 10 when you go into a game. And what the Saints have that the Bucks don't on defense is experience. So when you get into the playoffs and you start getting Cam Jordan to play good, the aforementioned Marshawn Lattimore, you start getting all those guys playing on the same page in the playoffs. They're as dangerous as anyone else.
Experience of getting toasted in the playoffs. That's just all I'm saying. This defense can play great in the regular season, but then for some reason they go in the playoffs and they do not play well. That's the only reason why I'm saying I wouldn't. This is a defense that I would not trust in the playoffs. But then going on the Bucs side too, I don't know what you're gonna get with this Bucs team. I would say on the defensive side, you don't know what you're going to get on that defense in the playoffs because it's like you said, J-Mac, it's lack of experience.
Yeah, and that was my only point. I'm not saying the Bucs aren't going to be good on defense and that their players aren't going to step up and play. They're young players and they're rookies, but we don't know what we're going to get because they've never been put in that situation. At least with the Saints, have they been smoked in the playoffs? Yeah, they have. But at least there's experience there where they're like, well, maybe if we do this different, it'll be a different outcome this time. We don't know that with the Bucs. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing.
So
also the Saints, don't forget, they just added that Quan Alexander too, another playmaking linebacker that can come off the edge and give you stacks if he comes back healthy. It's a big if.
So I just got a question that popped up on my end, and I'm gonna give this one to mess around. The only reason I'm gonna give this one to mess around is because his team is actually involved in this question, and this question actually came from Brandon Herrera. And Brandon Herrera's question was, whose defense would you say is more legit? Is it the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is it the Pittsburgh Steelers? Or is it the Chicago Bears? Which defense is more legit. And I'll go ahead and I'll give this to Mess Around because if I know one thing about Mess Around's usually not biased. So that's why I will give this to Mess Around in his unbiased opinion.
You're absolutely right. It's not even really a question for me. Chicago's got a bend but don't break defense. The best defense right now is Pittsburgh. They play the run well, they play the pass well, they get after the quarterback. They're just complete defense. Not even a question. Pittsburgh's got the best defense in the league.
Would you say that the Bucks are close?
They're close. I wouldn't say they're too far behind, but I'd still say Pittsburgh's got the most complete defense.
And it looks like J-Mac is in agreement on that one, so I'll go to J-Mac on this one too. Are you in agreement with Mess Around by saying that the Steelers are the most complete defense in the NFL at this point?
Absolutely. The Steelers are the one team. If I was the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, I would not want to see Pittsburgh. That defense can wreak havoc all over Patrick Mahomes all day. That defense is the reason why they are 7-0 at this point, because they have a quarterback who he came back from injury. Let's give the guy some credit. He came back, but he is not what he was before that injury. That's for sure. In Big Ben, he's got to rely more on the short game, on the slants. He could still throw the ball down the field, not as often, not as accurate. But that defense, man, watch out. It's old school Pittsburgh this year. Old school Pittsburgh Steelers football.
And, an interesting fact that maybe a lot of people do not know about this, but did you guys know if the Pittsburgh Steelers win next week and move to 8-0, this will be the first time in history, in franchise history, for the Pittsburgh Steelers that they would start a season 8-0. They've never done it in franchise history.
I mean, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, they've had some great teams. So,
well, yeah, because you can go back as far as the Steel Curtain. All I'm saying, you go back to the Steel Curtain. You go back to the 70s. All right, they won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years with Terry Bradshaw as their quarterback. And I'm not taking anything away from you, Terry, because you've entertained us for years now. But, man, they could have had better quarterbacks. That's all I'm saying. A guy who had 4 more career touchdowns than interceptions. He wasn't a great quarterback. He wasn't an elite quarterback at the time. But that defense wins championships, and that's why they won 4 in 6 years. Yeah, and so that's why I was going back to your point when you were talking about impressive on the side of how actually impressive this is, that this would be the first time in franchise history that the Steelers would start a season 8-0, and that's because going back as far as the Steel Curtain days and how good they were, you would be like, wow, they won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. You would think at some point in one of those years that they would have started 8-0, but that never happened.
Yep.
And so there's actually a comment saying they play the Cowboys next week. So is it a easy W? Well, let me tell you this. I would say it depends on who's playing quarterback, but I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't think it's going to matter.
Oh, I see this as one of those games, though. I got to tell you, should on paper, Steelers should blow them out of the water. I mean, it shouldn't even be close.
Yeah.
But I see it as one of those trap games. Those games where you come in and you think, hey, we got this. Like, I'm with you, Brandon Herrera.
Sorry, that's the comment. That is like the comment of the month right there.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes. And this is why Brandon Herrera was the fan of the month last month for October. So, but like I was saying, I see it as a trap game. Don't go in there thinking you got this before the game starts, because this is the kind of thing that happened. We are who we thought they were. That's all I'm saying. They are who we thought they were.
So
if you want to crown them, then crown them.
So mess around. What do you think? What are you thinking about that? Do you think that it's going to be an easy W for Pittsburgh next week? Are they going to start 8-0 for the first time in franchise history?
Listen, man, there's never anything. There's never an easy win in the NFL game. They're all pretty tough, but man, this is the Cowboys we're talking about here and there. Yeah, I like J Mac was saying, it could be a trap game for them. They could be, oh yeah, this is Dallas. We're gonna roll over them, and then they start turning the ball over here and there, throwing some pick sixes. You never know, but yeah, it should be an easy win.
It should. Right. All right. So before we call it a night, I'm gonna go around the table a little bit here, and I'm gonna start out with J Mac on this one, and I'm gonna say, J Mac, who stood out for you this weekend? Who got your game ball of the weekend?
Ooh, that's a good question. I actually got to watch a lot of football this weekend, which is not usual for me. But as much as it pains me to say, as much as I don't want to, I can't deny it. Dalvin Cook, you got the game ball this weekend, man. You single-handedly beat Green Bay by yourself. So, yeah, that's my game ball, no doubt.
All right, mess around. Who got your game ball?
J Mac stole mine. I was going to go with Cook as well. But he had like 165, 4 touchdowns, and a 50-yard. One of those was a 50-yard touchdown. So, yeah, it's definitely Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, but if you had to spice it up a little bit, just for the fun of it, since J-Mac took Dalvin Cook, what other way would you go? Because obviously that's an easy choice. Dalvin Cook, pretty much anybody could be like, yeah, he got the game ball because he had over 200 total yards and 4 touchdowns. So if you really had to spice it up a little bit, who else would you give it to?
I know they played a cupcake team, really, the Jets. Patrick Mahomes, 5 touchdowns, 400 yards. I'll go with Patrick Mahomes.
You took the easy route on that one. You took the easy route.
I said it was the easy route. I said that.
Right. Oh my God. The Cupcake Factory. Okay. So I guess if I had to pick my player of the week, probably not by any surprise, and you could probably go with the same route on this one, but I would have to give it to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had a great weekend, and at least they played the 4.
Yeah, they played the 49ers. Ace is having technical difficulties there. So we're just about done with the show. We'll wait for Ace to come back. We'll finish off on that thought, but just play up.
Defense, though, yeah, how many other teams has played the Jets and their quarterbacks didn't put up 400 yards and 5 touchdowns? So there's that.
Touche, my brother. Touche, because you are correct. And I'll also say, you can look at any game and you look at one individual, try to give it to a game ball of anybody. But you have to give it to those guys. They put up great numbers, and there wasn't a whole lot of resistance on the other side. That's always a great way to go.
Right,
man. What Monday night game next week? So let's preview that one for just a minute because we got about a minute left here in the show. So next week we got to watch the Patriots play the Jets.
Toilet bowl,
absolutely. I completely agree. So you got about 30 seconds. Mess around. What you got?
Hey, we talked about this pre-show before we came on that we could both see in the Jets getting their first win this week. Yeah, because the Patriots aren't playing any better than the Jets are. So I'm going to say the Jets get their first win of the year. They get off to this snide of going 0-16. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Jets.
All right. So I'll end out the show by telling you this. The Dolphins are a playoff team. They're 4-3. Nope, they did not win that game because of Tua. I understand that, but they're a playoff team. That defense is way better than people think they are, and they they played a good game this weekend. And again, they're 4-3, and they're right there behind the Buffalo Bills. Hey, we want to thank all y'all for watching the show tonight. We want to give a shout out to our producer, the one, the only Nate the Great. We appreciate you, brother. Everything you do for the show, you are the man. So with that said, I think we're going to end the show. Mess around. Thanks for joining us. We would thank Ace, but he's having some technical difficulties, so he'll be back with us on Wednesday for the ASAP Sports Minute. Stay with us. Good night. Good night, Mess Around.
Later, man.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Great eye in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, never the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.